Hi, I'm Elizabeth, half of Leos at Large, and I am back for a much requested part 2 of traveling with a cat cross country. Now, I had made a part 1 when we were getting ready to move from Washington to Arizona with what is a very sensitive, antisocial cat, Henry. And so there was a lot of prep. He really hadn't even been out of the house his whole life. I've had him since he was a kitten. And if I can, I'll show you a picture of him as a kitten up in the corner there. And so I took a lot of time to prepare him to be in a car, be in a crate. I tried a lot of different things. I even tried, putting him in a crate and driving him around a few times, and that didn't seem to even faze him at all. So over time, if you watch part 1, you'll see all the different things that I did to get him ready, but I didn't follow up part 2 with the actual results of the trip and the trip itself. So bottom line is, of course, we're now safe and sound, and he's in his new home, and he's very happy. He kind of rules the roost around here. And we drove for 4 days, and we stayed in hotels, motels, hotels on the way down for 3 different nights. And, we had, paid for, to have an animal in the room, so we weren't sneaking him in or anything. And so he basically meowed for 3 days straight for hours at a time in the car. And I was with him alone in the car. Leo David was driving the truck. And it was pretty bad. I felt bad for him. I mean, I could put up with it because obviously he was in stress. But when we got to the hotel room, he was actually pretty relaxed. He wasn't pacing around like a wild animal, which I thought he would. And we set him up with a little station with his food and so forth. And he did some exploring of the room. And at one point, I think the worst thing that happened was he went under the bed, and we were, oh my God, how are we going to get him out? There was those boxed in frames, and we were just thinking, how in the world, were we going to get him out? And we ended up just lifting up the mattress. There he was underneath it. So there was no problem there. So the trip itself, he was pretty freaked out. We got to our apartment, which we lived in an apartment for a year waiting for the house to be built. He just slept in a closet, and I worked in the room with him. So he was very comforted knowing that I was there in the room with him. But that's just his life. So it worked out really well. I'll show you some pictures of the setup and a little bit of video that we have. And hopefully, if nothing else, you can, like I said, see the setup of what we had, and maybe some entertainment. Here we go. Well, here's Henry in the early phases of training to be in the crate. I didn't mention it in part 1, but I did leave the door to the crate open, and I would put treats in there at random times of the day to try and get him to see that this was a good place to be, and get him comfortable with going in there. And as you can see, it worked. Eventually, he would lay down in the crate, and he had his back warm by the fireplace. And now we are loaded up, ready to go. And he's not quite sure what's going on. A little breeze blowing in his face. He never really felt that before, being an indoor cat. And he's pretty socked in there, but I could definitely see him through my rearview mirror. And then, of course, when we got to the hotel, he was extremely thirsty, drinking tons of water. I put water in his crate with him in the back of the car, but I just don't think he ever really drank it. He was just too much anxiety. And in the hotel room, we had water set out for him and dry food and some wet food on a disposable paper plate. Made it super simple. Here's his cat box. We took one of those giant Sterilite containers, and cut a notch open in the front so you can get in and out easily, and put the plastic on top of that. Made it super easy. And then he's out of the crate, walking around, looking pretty comfortable. You can see in his face, he's not too stressed out. He knows where we are. And now he's settling in for the evening He likes to hide underneath chairs. This is where we had him at night, on top of a table in the crate. Made sure it was locked up so he couldn't get out, and had a towel over the top so he felt safe and secure. And there he is in his new home, safe and sound. Well, thanks for watching our video today about how to travel with a cat cross-country part 2. Hope you learned something about the setup, how their behavior would be, etc. I asked Leo David if he wanted to make a video on traveling cross-country driving a truck, and he said no. And Henry, what did you learn? He learned that he didn't want to ever have to do that again. See you next time.